it's JP or Jigisha. I am doing this tutorial for the PandaHall contest, and I'm calling this bracelet my Purple Stars bracelet. It is a piece where I've designed a component and the connector in between the components, and I've also added a loop with a lobster claw clasp. So please stay tuned and I will show you how this particular bracelet is made. It's a chunky bracelet and you are going to need to make several components. I have a fairly small wrist and I still needed to make 6 components. So this bracelet is probably approximately 7 inches. Per each component you are going to need 11 seed beads, 15 rondelle beads, these are 3x4 rondelle beads, and you are going to need 5 superduo beads. Per connection, you're going to need just 2 rondelle beads, and also for the loops, for the clasp, you're going to need 2 rondelle beads. So depending on the length of the bracelet you need to make for your wrist, you'll have to take into account the number of beads you'll need. Anyway, I hope you guys like this and stay tuned for the design. To make each component, you need about half an arm span of thread. I'm using Wildfire 0.006. You can also use fireline, whatever type of thread you like. So you just so what you're going to do is string 5 rondelle beads and 5 seed beads. Bring them down to the end of your thread, then go back through all of the beads. Like this. And you have yourself a little circle. Now what you're going to do is tie a knot. So I'm just going to tie a simple square knot. You want to get the beads close together. And because you want this to be nice and snug. Also, if you're wondering about this metal X, it's basically so I stay in frame, so I try to keep my work right above it, and that way I know I'm always going to be in frame for you guys. Anyway, hopefully it's not too distracting for you. I do that because it works for me, and I find that sometimes I'm focused on the beadwork and not on what it looks like on camera. So this way, I never get out of frame. Anyway, I've just gone through the rondelle bead and a seed bead, and I just want to hide my knot inside the rondelle, and I'm actually going to move over a few more beads, make sure the knot is far away, and to go to the next step I want to actually be exiting out of a rondelle. Doesn't matter which rondelle of the 5 that you've got here, any one is fine, and this is how you want to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up 4 seed beads, and these are 11 O's, if I haven't mentioned that. So also the ones over here are 11 O's also. So, and I'm going to make a circle around the rondelle. So here's where the thread is exiting, and I'm going back through the same bead. And you're going to get a little half circle of seed beads around the rondelle. Next, go through the seed bead and the next rondelle. Pick up 4 more. Seed beads and go back around the rondelle, and I'm actually going through the next seed bead, and that's okay. And this is what you're getting. Now we're going to repeat this 3 more times. So you're going to go and do this around all 5 rondelles. So I'm exiting out of my rondelle. I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads. And I'm going to go through the rondelle and then into the adjacent seed bead. And come out of the rondelle. Pick up 4 seed beads. Go back through the same rondelle and go through the adjacent seed bead. So this is what you have so far. I'm going to go through this last rondelle in the group. And I'm going to once again pick up 4 seed beads. And I'm going to go back around the rondelle. So then what I'm going to do is go through this adjacent seed bead. Then up into just 2 of these seed beads that we made on these half circles. So you added 4, you're going to go up only 2 of the 4. And we're going to make peaks. So you go and pick up another seed bead and then go down the last 2 seed beads. And this way you get a nice little peak. Then go through this adjacent seed bead. And if you can, go ahead and go up into 2 of the seed beads from the loop. So this will also tighten up the seed beads. And so pick up 1, go down the seed beads, and this is what you're going to have. So you get these 2 nice little peaks. And I'm going to go through the next seed bead that's between the 2 rondelles, and then 2 of the 4 from the loop. I'm going to move the tail out of the way. Down the 2. And we have peak number 3 done. 2 more peaks to make. So go through the seed bead between the rondelles, up the 2 seed beads, and pick up a seed bead and then go down the next 2 seed beads. And so far we have 4 peaks, 1 more to go. So last time, go through the seed bead that's between the rondelles, two out of the 4 seed beads from the loop, pick up a seed bead and down the last 2. Okay, so now go through once again the seed bead that's between the rondelles. And this is what your star will look like, or it should look like the little star. And then you're going to go and you want to exit out of this top peak bead. So you're going to go up all 3 of these beads, like so. And now you are going to add some more rondelles. So we're going to pick up a rondelle, a superduo, and a rondelle, and we're going to go into the next peak. So the center seed seed bead that you just added from the previous round. And I'm sure you guessed by now that you are going to do this 5 more times. You're going to go all the way around our little star. So you're going to pick up a rondelle, a superduo, and a rondelle, and you're going into the next peak. My rondelles have escaped. Okay, so once again, rondelle, superduo, rondelle, and then into the peak bead. Rondelle, superduo, rondelle, and back into this top bead. Last time, rondelle, superduo, rondelle, into the top bead, then into the rondelle, and into the superduo. So you want to pull in the direction that you're moving the thread, basically. So you just want to pull this way and get this really tight, and you want to see it kind of cupping upward, so a little bit of a bowl shape going on. And you want to make sure you get that going, and then pull into or move into the top hole of the superduos. So make sure you don't have any thread showing. So you can see I have a little bit of thread showing there, so I'm just going to give it a little more of a tug, get rid of that thread, and then you are going to pick up 2 11-ohs, and you're going through the top hole of the next superduo. And this is what it should look like. And you're going to repeat this, of course, 5 more times or 4 more times. And there we go. I picked up 2 seed beads and I went into the next superduo. And I'm going to do that again. That's 3. Here's 4. Last time. And I'm giving it a good tug every time I'm adding beads. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go through this last superduo, and then you're just going to reinforce. So I'm going to go through as many beads as I can here and get this tail out. So this is what the piece will look like. It's actually going to look a little bit better once you reinforce it. So I would recommend, if you're using fireline, to go through it at least 2 more times, because fireline's a little bit thinner than wildfire. I'm only going to go through the 1 more time because it gets very tight as I go through this twice. So and again, you want to pull the thread in the direction of your, direction of the circle that you're moving in. So I'm moving counterclockwise, and that's kind of how I'm pulling the thread. Imagine if you're right-handed, you're probably going in the other direction. So you'll be pulling in that direction. Now what you're going to do is exit out of a superduo bead, and then step down into the bottom hole of the superduo and into the rondelle next to the superduo. Pick up 3 seed beads, go into the next rondelle bead. and you're going to get a little teeny tiny peak. So far this is what your piece is going to look like. And I'm going to do this again. So you're actually adding little picots between every single one of these rondelles. So I'm picking up 3 seed beads, and I'm going to go ahead and go through this next rondelle. And again, tension is very important. You don't want any thread showing. And you can see that this time the picot looks is pointed kind of up towards me, versus this one is sort of down and away. So that's what you're going to get, is you're going to get this sort of alternating pattern of a down and an up picot. Let me show you on this piece. This is one component that I've got ready to connect. So I've got it all surrounded by picots, and so I've got 5 that are in the up position, and then I've also got 5 in the down position, and they're just alternating. So, and I also find it easier to do this with the back side. So this is the back side of the component up. It's just easier to see the rondelles. So pick up 3 more of your rondelles, and, or sorry, 3 more of your seed beads, and then go into the next rondelle. And again, 3 more. Next rondelle. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up off camera, but I think you guys have gotten the gist of it. So all you're doing is adding 3 seed beads between every single one of the rondelle beads. That's it. And when you finish, this is what your completed component is going to look like. That's the back. It's got 5 peaks coming up and 5 peaks going away. Same thing in this side. This is the top side. And that's all you have to do. Okay, then the next part I'm going to show you how to connect the components to each other. To make the connections, let me give you a closer look. This is what the connection looks like. It's a little X in the center with the rondelles on top of it. And so all I'm using are seed beads and the rondelles, of course. And these are connected via basically these 2 rondelles on this component and the 2 rondelles on this component. So the rondelles, I'm basically picking the rondelles that have the picot that's in the upward direction. So as you can see. So I'm going to flip this and show you what it looks like on the back. So you can't really see the rondelles anymore. They're kind of covered up by the connection here. But this is actually probably going to be the most complicated part of this to do, and I think if you're a beginner beader, this is where you're going to have the hardest time, is just kind of understanding how this connection is made. And it's really not that complicated. I mean, all I'm doing is going around 4 beads on the 2 components, but the tricky part is that the rondelles are all sitting at angles, and so they're just difficult to get the bead through. And so this is hard enough to do off camera, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be fairly difficult for me to show you on camera and make sure I'm sort of zoomed in well and staying in frame. So, but I've got 4 components connected, and I believe I need to add 2 more. The other thing I want you to note is these components aren't going to sit in a straight line just because the shape of the component is a star shape. So when I add my next component piece here, it's going to go something like this. So there's a little bit of a zigzag to it. So this is kind of coming down, this is up, down, and up, and so forth. So And that's okay. I mean, that's part of the design of the piece. I mean, when you make anything star-shaped, you're not going to completely be able to do it in a straight line. So anyway, so that's what that looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so I can show you how to put the connections together. Now, when you make your components, make sure you leave a long tail because that's what we're using to connect. So I've got a long tail here, and I've got my tail on this side, but this side doesn't have the tail, so that's where this next component is going. Got it all flipped. So the component will go here. And okay, stay tuned. I've gone ahead and zoomed in on my piece here, and so these picots are coming towards me, and or rather what I want are these picots that are away from me. And this is the point, this is where these two rondelles and these two rondelles is where I'm going to make the connection. So I've got my thread exiting out of this rondelle. So what I'm going to do now is pick up two 11-0 seed beads, a rondelle bead, and two more 11-0s. So this is what you're going to have. And I'm going to go into this rondelle over here, this one. And I'm going to go in from this way because this rondelle is at a slight angle, so this is the best way to go into it. The other thing is, when I do that, this piece is going to stay, it's not going to get covered up by the beads that I'm adding. And that's important because you don't want this getting pushed down and getting hidden away. You want your connection to be on the bottom. So this is the direction I'm going in. Then I'm just going to go across and come out of this rondelle bead, like so. And see how the beads kind of move right on top? Now I'm going to go ahead and pick up two seed beads, a rondelle, and two seed beads, like so. And I'm just going to turn the work a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. I have to go into this rondelle bead here. So here's where I'm exiting, and here's where I'm connecting. So again, I'm going to come in kind of from this back angle. And see, the beads are bumping up against this picot, or the needle is rather, not the beads. So I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, there we go, I got it through. Now make sure you have everything really snug, because you'll find that the beads will separate and you'll have a lot of thread showing, and this will be very loose, and you don't want that. So all I'm doing is I'm tugging to make sure that all of my lines are straight and everything is in. There's no thread showing, it's not loose, there's no slack with the thread. This is where it gets a little bit trickier to do this. So I am exiting out of this rondelle down here. It's been covered up by my beads. And I got to get into this next rondelle over here. So I'm going to kind of tug my throat. I'm not going through any beads or anything. I'm just going to go underneath this first set of beads that I added. And then I can just kind of flip this away. So you can see that I'm going into the rondelle here and coming up out of it. And then I'm going to flip this back. And I'm just going to turn it a little bit, and how it's easier for me to go up into the beads. So I'm out of that rondelle, so I'm just going to go into this two seed beads that I added when I started doing the connection. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up 3 11/0s. Got my 3. And I'm going to turn my work again. So you see where the thread is exiting out of these 2 seed beads, and I'm going to go diagonally across to the 2 seed beads on this side. And I'm trying to push this picot kind of out of the way, make sure it doesn't get lost in the whole thing, or get covered up rather. And that's what you have. And we're going to go back. You got to go through this rondelle bead here. So I got to approach it from an angle here. So this is tricky. You're not gonna, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see it, but it's, the hole is at an angle. So there it is. And I'm probably not gonna get through the other rondelle. So, but I've gone through the one rondelle. I'm just gonna flip this over so you guys can see where I'm at. There it is. And now I can go back up into this rondelle. Can flip the work back. So now it's time to come up these 2 seed beads on this side. Pick up a seed bead, and I'm going to now go into the center bead here. And so you just want to make sure that these are the 3 you added, and it's going to be this bead here, like so. And you also want to make sure that you're kind of rotating the bead, because the beads actually will kind of be centered to make the X. So see how it's like centered? And so you can actually see that it's where the other beads are at on the diagonal, that particular bead is centered, and that's what you want. So you want to make sure you're going in this direction. And you're going to pick up another seed bead, and you're going to go through these 2 seed beads over here now that are on this opposite side, like so. And there you have it. Your connection is made. Now we're going to go back into our rondelle here. Hopefully you guys can see that's a little bit difficult because beads are there. I'm going to see, I'll flip this. There you go. Bet you can see it now. Now I'm going to go up into this picot this time. And make a 1/2 inch knot here, right in front of this rondelle. And my thread's caught. There we go. Okay, so I made my 1/2 inch knot here, and then I'm just going to work my thread through some more of these beads, and you can make a few more knots if you want. It should be fairly secure considering how many times we've gone through all these beads. So I'm just going to go up into this and down the picot. Okay, so that's secure. Here's the connection, and I hope that was clear and hope you guys were able to see that well and understand it, etc. So here we go. And so the next step is to, I'm going to show you how to add the clasp. Alright, so to make the clasp, or to add on the clasp part, I basically kept it fairly simple. So you can see I have 6 components and they're all connected. And all I did was make a really simple loop around 2 of the rondelles. And in this case, I used the 2 rondelles that are sort of connected with a picot in the downward position. And so I made it stand out, and I think it flows really nicely with the design, the rest of the design of the bracelet. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. The only thing is, instead of adding just a jump ring, I'm going to go ahead and add a lobster claw clasp with a jump ring. So no differences in terms of what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring you over here to this side now. So we're going to make the clasp come around these 2 rondelles over here, where this is the downward picot. So I've got my thread situated where I'm coming out of this rondelle. And what I'm going to do is pick up 2 seed beads, a rondelle, then 4 seed beads, a rondelle, and then 2 more seed beads. So it's 2 seed beads, rondelle, 4 seed beads, rondelle, 2 seed beads. And I'm going to go ahead and push that down. And I'm just going to go around the rondelle over here. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over because I think it works better when it's down. So I'm just going around this rondelle and through the superduo that's attached, that the rondelle is attached to. And there's your loop. Now I'm going to go through this rondelle where we started. And I'm just going to turn this way. So these are the 2 seed beads, and I'm going to go through the 2 seed beads, the rondelle, and then 2 more seed beads. And give it a good tug. And now I'm going to go ahead and add a seed bead before I go down into the rest of these beads. And that's it. Our loop is basically done. The only thing left to do is to reinforce. So I'm going to go back into my rondelle, my superduo, back into the rondelle, and just turning the work. I'm going to go ahead and add, or not add, but I'm just going through the beads now. So I'm going to go through these 3 seed beads, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/2 inch knot here. Okay, I'm having a little bit of trouble. There we go. And back into my seed beads. I'm going to pull the knot in, and so all you have to do now is essentially make, oh, I twisted this bracelet. All you have to do is make a few more knots. I would make one here on this side of the rondelle, and then probably on the other side of right after the superduo, and then just weave your thread in. So that's all you got to do. Okay guys, here is the completed bracelet. I hope you guys like it. I think it came out really nice. It's a chunky bracelet for those of you who like chunky jewelry. There is my loop with the lobster claw, and here's the loop on the other side. Well, I have more tutorials coming up. I've got quite a few more. I think I at least have one more bracelet and a necklace coming up. So please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.